Good,
Okay,
good afternoon, Dr. Jack. So, good afternoon.
I'm
Mm,
delighted to be here. Hello to you too.
yeah, I'm doing well. So, I think last time when we had a conversation, it was last month. I was not yet a doctor. So, it's,
Well, welcome to being a doctor.
yeah, thank you so much. So,
It is very well deserved. So you worked very hard and you wrote a beautiful thesis.
I appreciate. Thank you for your mentorship. Thank you for everything. So, today our discussion is going to focus on the Situated Expectancy-Value Theory model. So, we need to help people to understand the different boxes, different constructs. So, this is the main purpose. So, as we begin our conversation, how did your journey in developing Situated Expectancy-Value Theory begin?
I went to graduate school at UCLA in the late 1960s. And this was a time when the field of psychology was undergoing a major transition. And people were becoming much more interested in what people thought than
Mhm.
in reinforcement theory, which had been very popular before this time.
Mm,
It was called the cognitive revolution. So we began thinking about how people actually make decisions, how people see the world. And I was a developmental psychologist, so
mm,
how this would develop over time.
mm,
So I worked with Bernie Weiner, who was one of the first motivational psychologists to propose that motivation was based in these kinds of beliefs
mm,
related to a expectancy values, and expectancy value theory in general is a very classical approach to
mm,
understanding human behavior. So he was interested in refining that and being more specific about the exact thoughts that
mm,
would go into expectancies and values.
mm,
So I began thinking about that. And I, in particular, began thinking about value. What gives a task value to someone?
mm,
Why would they want to do it? What do they get out of doing it? Because that's the value side of the expectancy value model. The
mm,
model basically says people will do things if they think they can,
mm,
and if doing it is important to them.
mm,
So if the task has what I call subjective task value.
mm,
At about the same time, people became concerned with why girls were less likely to go on into the mathematically based sciences, so
mm,
chemistry and physics and engineering.
mm,
And they put out requests for proposals for people to study that question. Why
mm,
was it that the girls were not going on, and what could be done to encourage them to do so? So it was very much a practical question.
mm,
We
mm,
need more scientists. Where do we find more scientists? Well, we could recruit more females because there were not so many females.
mm,
This extended later into we could recruit more people of all kinds that were
mm,
underrepresented in the scientific field. So people from other countries, people that were minoritized in various ways and had not been encouraged to go on and go into the sciences.
mm,
So I applied for one of those grants. I said, well, I was working with my graduate students and we were thinking about the question, we had begun to develop the model. And it didn't focus particularly on math.
What was
Math,
the year?
no, math became how we could test it, but
Mm,
I didn't particularly care about math per se. I could have studied sports, I could have studied instrumental music. I was interested in how people make choices,
mm,
particularly choices of things that take a lot of time to develop. So, what I would call achievement tasks, things
mm,
that aren't easy, that take hard work, and you have to spend a lot of time doing it. So,
mm,
those were the kinds of tasks I was interested in understanding.
mm.
And science and math are certainly that type of task. So
mm,
I could use the money that was being offered by the government to study this question and test my model as it worked out specifically
mm,
for math.
mm,
And that's why the model is so extended, because I was interested not only in the choice that
mm,
was made in the moment, but also the socialization history
mm,
that led boys and girls on average to make different decisions.
mm. Wow.
So you want to understand both the personal choice, but you
Mm,
want to understand the impact of the culture and the adults that socialize the kids in
mm,
shaping their decisions.
mm.
So that's why the model is as big as it is.
Wow, that's interesting. So, what was the year, please, that time when you started this theory? When you start?
About, well, I started thinking about it about 1970. And then I got a job at Smith College. I got my PhD and I got a job at Smith College. And I worked with Sue Goff, who was a student that I had at Smith College. And
Mm,
she and I worked a great deal. So this was about 1973, 74,
mm.
on subjective task value and how it would account for gender differences in behavior choices.
Oh, thank you
Then
so.
Yep. And then I moved to Michigan and I had new students. Actually, Sue Goff moved with me. She was an undergraduate at Smith. She came with me to Michigan and we developed the whole theory. So we worked with the students that I had there, including Alan Wigfield, who came as a postdoc about 1978 or 9. I
Mm,
can't remember exactly because it was a long time ago, and worked with us for about 5 or 6 years. So it was very much a product of the students I was working with, in particular Sue Goff, and also with Alan Wigfield.
yeah, wow, that's really good. So, as you are still talking about this model, I would like to uh, I would like you just to explain, to help us to understand the structure of this model, Situated Expectancy-Value Theory. It
Okay.
can help us to understand different boxes and the allows connecting those boxes. Please, can you help us to understand easily this model, each boxes, and these allows? I see many allows.
Okay, I will do that as best I can. So this is the way I think. I
Mm,
think in boxes and arrows. So when I take a problem, like why are girls less likely than boys to take advanced math in high school, for example? That's an achievement choice. I would sit back and say, well, what are all the possible influences? What do we know that could in fact help us to understand this difference? And I put things in boxes. Each of the boxes are a set of related concepts. So, for example, if you look at the far left, the exogenous influences, this is
mm,
where we would put culture. These are the things that have to do with where the person grew up. So,
mm,
what kind of context did they grow up in? And we have examples in there like gender role stereotypes. So, the culture has stereotypes about what males and females should do.
mm.
And kids are exposed to that from very early in their life. You can see it in books, you can see it in television, you can see it by looking around and seeing that men and women do different things. So
Mm,
we would have a set of things that we thought were outside of the individual, were shared by all the individuals within a culture that could influence over time their beliefs. So
mm,
that's the left side of the model. The right side of the model, the two columns on the right side, are all within the person's head.
mm,
Okay, so if you look at box I, for example, I
mm,
have in there specific activity specific self concepts and expectancies for success. So
mm,
that's the expectancy box.
mm,
And the expectancy box can have lots of components to it. I've only listed expectancies for a specific subject area because that's what we were interested in explaining.
mm,
But of course, in there is also their ability self-concepts for whole bunches of activities.
mm,
So that's where, when we talk about hierarchies, we
mm,
talk about not only do you have a specific self-concept for math, for reading, for language arts, for playing a drum, for dancing, for all of the skill-based things that you could have in your life.
mm,
And we would predict that you would pick the thing that you were the most certain you could succeed,
mm,
even if it's hard,
mm,
and the thing that you valued the most.
mm,
So that particular column, the I box is the expectancies, and
mhm,
the J box is the subjective task value.
mm,
Now, what you don't see is that that's layered. So we could reproduce this graph for every activity domain that a person has. So
mm,
when we talk about subjective task value affecting their choices, which is the box in the middle, K,
mm,
that's the choice that they make. We think that it includes the value of for that task as well as the value of other tasks.
mm,
And so we think there's a hierarchy of beliefs about what's the most important,
mm,
what's the least important.
mm,
And we think that what gives something importance are these concepts that we have inside that box.
mm,
Now, you could come up with others, and people have. So, for example, we have number 4, relative costs. That has now been elaborated into social costs, social psychological costs, financial costs, lost opportunity costs, but you could add other things too.
mm,
Uh, Anticipated disappointment from your parents if you did something you thought that they wouldn't like. So you can build on that box and think about, well, did we leave something out? Is there
mm,
something critical to another culture that
mm.
would give a particular activity special importance?
Mm.
Okay.
As you see in that box, subjective task values. Normally to uh, the model you came up 2020
Yeah.
was
Yes.
having 4 types of subjective values.
Right.
I see the fifth one, prior investment.
Right. So we've learned that that's important. If you've put a lot of effort into something, you probably will think twice about leaving that thing.
Mm,
So that's part of will you quit?
mm,
So if you've learned to play the violin and
mm,
you've spent many, many hours,
mm,
and now someone gives you the opportunity to learn to play the piano,
mm,
you might say, well, but I've practiced so hard on the violin. Shouldn't I just keep working on getting better at playing the violin?
mm,
So that would be the prior investment in that activity
mm,
that will make playing a violin, as an example, more valuable to you than learning a new instrument.
mm,
Okay. So that we added that because we've got more and more interested in the hierarchical nature
mm,
of these values, and how they could lead someone to think something is more important than a similar other activity because
mm,
they've already invested a lot of time in it. The economists would call that sunk costs.
mm.
So you've already done things. Do you want to lose that investment that you've already made in one skill?
Okay. Is it where we see in your model, even in your book, where you say uh, choices are made not in a vacuum and are hierarchical? So,
Yes, yes, both of those things. So hierarchical is you have to take into account not just one activity that a person does, but all their activities if you
mm,
want to understand a specific choice,
mm,
because they're picking A instead of B.
mm,
And so A must be more valuable
mm,
than B.
Mm.
because they make a decision even though they know they can succeed
Mm.
at both A and B. So, for example, both football and swimming,
Mm.
but they prefer football,
Mm.
and so they will pick football in when the next opportunity comes up rather than swimming, even
Mm.
though they know they could be good at both. So
Mm.
it's not just expectancies; it's expectancies and values together
Mm.
that form this decision, that inform this achievement related decision. But
Mm.
it's also situationally based because any given situation
Mm.
will impact what thoughts are brought forward.
Mm.
So if I'm sitting in a classroom,
Mm.
I am going to give behaviors that happen in classrooms
Mm.
more value than something that doesn't. So it's unlikely I'm going to get up and start dancing
Mm.
in the classroom
Mm.
because the situation of the classroom has uh, impacts what a person think is appropriate to do in that setting.
Mm.
Okay, so that's how it's situated. It's
Mm.
situated in that what actually happens in the moment
Mm.
depends a lot on where it's happening and why it's happening, what you're there for, etc.
Mm.
So uh, you might choose to work hard in math while you're sitting in the library at school, but
Mm.
when you get home, you want to talk to your friends.
Mm.
So at home, you would make a different decision between doing homework and going out and dancing with your friends.
Mm.
So the situation is not the same in
Mm.
different situations.
Mm.
The choices that you're considering depend upon the situation and their value at the time, given that it's a value relative to other values, can
Mm.
change. So while may think math is absolutely the most important subject I study in school,
Mm.
when I get home, I may not care about math at all.
Mm.
So, given a choice between playing a sport with my friends,
Mm.
I'll do that.
Mm.
So that's how it's situated, and that's what we have on the left side of the model is we have all of the things that can help situate the decision that a person makes.
Okay, which ones so that you can even explain those?
Well, the exogenous influences, so all these stereotypes
Mm.
about what people are going to be good at and not. The socializers' beliefs and behaviors. This is everything that teachers and parents and friends do to influence a person's behavior. Well, that affects, so if you follow the line, you can see that box B goes to affective reactions and memories.
Mm.
So if someone yells at you when you pick up a ball,
Oh, it comes from B to H, right?
right, right. From B, socializers' beliefs and behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
So you can imagine a situation in which you pick up a ball happens to be laying around and you pick it up,
Mm.
and your dad says, "Don't ever touch that ball again." This then goes into your memory. So
Mm.
it goes into H.
Mm.
Daddy says not to do this. This is bad. It made me unhappy when it happened.
Mm.
So that's in your memory.
Mm.
And that memory affects the subjective value in the future that
Mm.
you will attach to playing ball.
Mm. Mm.
So that's what the arrow essentially means what we think is most important about socializers and beliefs and behavior. If you follow the arrow, it goes to H, which are these affective memories of
Mm-hmm.
interactions with socializers. It
Mm.
also goes to your self-beliefs and the
Mm.
beliefs that you have about the task.
Which box?
It goes from B to G.
Okay, I see. Mm-hmm.
So we also think socializers' behaviors will affect your personal and social identities. And in a minute, I'll get to what those are.
Mm.
Your possible selves, which is the view of yourself in the future that you would like to be true. Your
Mm.
self-concept of your specific behaviors, because they've given you practice, they've given you opportunities to learn new things. And those are in your memory, so they're in your memory. They've also taught you a lot about what's appropriate in
mm,
given situations and tasks. So perceptions of task difficulties and procedural task beliefs. Well,
mm,
I want to become a football player. How do I do that?
mm,
Or I want to become a scientist. How do I do that? Well,
mm,
teachers and parents and TV and other socializers have given you information that's relevant to that question, and it
mm,
has been stored in your brain.
mm,
Okay. So that's a very important link between socializers going up to G. Socializers, if you see box B, you
mm.
also have an arrow going up to E, which is perceptions of socializers' beliefs,
Oh,
and down to interpretations of experiences.
mm,
So what that means is we're hypothesizing that, first of all, if you look at just box B, E, and G,
mhm,
you can see that B goes to E
mhm,
and E goes to G.
mm,
So we would say that things that you learn from your teachers, your parents, your friends affect, I mean, first of all, you have to see them, you have to perceive them.
mm,
So mom picks up a ball and plays with it.
mm,
I see that.
mm,
Mom gives me a ball. I see that. So
mm,
I begin to think, well, mom thinks it's a good idea to play ball.
mm,
So I begin to get perceptions of the socializer's beliefs.
mm,
They're not exactly the same, but they are related. That's why it's not in the same box. That's why it's a different box.
mm,
Because it's not the same as what the socializers did.
mm,
It's the actor's perceptions.
mm,
Okay?
mm,
And that's something you can study. That's a whole, that going from B to E to G, for example, you could do a life's work on just those three boxes.
mm,
And you could say, I'm interested in how parents affect kids' ability self concepts.
mm,
And within our model, that would be a perfectly reasonable thing to study.
mm,
All right.
mm.
You could also see that G goes to I.
I see G. Is it the?
It goes to I.
I see. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what we're saying is now the expectancies that you have
Mm,
about succeeding are influenced by all of the things in box G. In
mm,
box G, everything that's in box G are these beliefs that you have in your head about who you are, who you might be, and what do you have to do to get there.
mm. Okay.
So if you think you want to be a ball player, but you think playing ball is very, very difficult,
Mm,
you may have a lower expectation of success.
mm,
But that might say it's very important to me, so I'm going to work on it. I know it's going to take a lot of work,
mm,
but doing that thing, so if you can see box G goes
mm-hmm,
down to box J.
mm-hmm. I see.
So all of those beliefs in G are influencing your subjective task value.
So I see also some boxes like box D, box C. Can you talk them as well as box F, like interpretation of experience?
Right.
B is previous achievement related to experience and performance. C is stable characteristics. So,
Okay. So within motivation theory, particularly within Bernie Weiner's perspective, it's called
mm,
attribution theory. He
mm,
would say that you succeed or you fail,
mm,
and you have to explain that to yourself.
mm,
And he talks about uh, whether you think you failed because it was too hard,
mm,
or because you were unlucky that day, you had a cold or something made you not able to do your best. You
mm,
had a bad teacher, and that's why you didn't do as well as you hoped, um, or you didn't try hard enough.
mm,
And those actually then affect your memory as well as your you can get to I. So it affects your memory. It also affects your self-concepts. So F goes to G, and through G it goes to I. So what we would say is, all right, so that was a failure example, but let's say you go in and you get an A on the math test. Or in your example, with your thesis, you succeed in applying some advice you got on the phone about about agricultural procedures. So you could attribute that to, boy, I worked really hard and made that happen. Boy, that phone message was really good at teaching me how to do this. Oh, I just happened to get lucky and it rained that week, so we had a good crop. Even though I applied this thing, it really wasn't due to my knowledge. It was due to luck. Or it was due to, you could think of other things, like you had a lot of help. That would have an impact on how well you thought you'd do in the future. If you thought it was that the instructions on the phone were just so unclear that you failed rather than succeeded, then you won't use the phone again. You'll say, no, that's not a good way to do this. So that's where the interpretation comes in. And there are people that do studies on that essentially, like I did for one of my early studies, I gave kids puzzles to do that were either impossible or doable. Now, they thought they were all doable. When they would succeed, I would say, oh, that was really a hard puzzle. You really worked hard. Or I would say, oh, everybody solves that one. Now, would you like to do a harder one? The answer that I gave them does affect the likelihood they'll pick another one. So if I told them, well, you're really smart, you're really good at this, and I say, do you want to do a harder one? They'll say, yeah, absolutely. If I say, oh, that one was an easy one, everybody gets it right, would you like to do a harder one? Well, then it's less clear. The person might say, well, why would I want to? And decide, no, I don't want to do that. I'd rather go do something else. Let me out of this room and let me go play with my friends. So that's an example of how within the general model and in the book we talk about that these interpretations are very important. And they're very much part of the culture. So they're socialized and are part of what you learn as you grow up, as to whether you're in a culture that attributes things to ability, or you're in a culture that tends to attribute things to hard work. You can have people who have exactly the same performance, but they reach different conclusions and the likelihood of their success depending on whether they're in a culture that rewards for ability, for relative ability, versus a culture that rewards for effort and makes you think you can do many, many things if you just try hard enough.
Are there other boxes we didn't talk about?
Well, C we haven't talked about. So C is a set of characteristics that a person has, like their personality, like their temperament, like whether they have siblings or not. All of those things are present in the person from very early in life, and it affects everything that happens afterwards. So that's another one of these backgrounds. So all of the things that are in the first column are really background things that are happening over a person's lifetime that affects the individual's self-concepts at the moment they're making choices. And that's the right-hand side of the model, which is the middle column and the two right-hand columns. So what you really need to divide the model into three pieces. The first is the far left column, which are characteristics that have occurred prior to the person making the decision. The next column is the person's interpretation of their past. The third column is what are their more stable concepts now about who they are and what the tasks are and will demand in their world. And then the right two columns are the person's making the choice.
Mm,
Okay, so the column with IKJ
mm,
is making the choice. So
mm,
I've decided in K, all right, I want to be a scientist.
mm,
Will I succeed? Well, we don't know. What we know is that choice is going to affect box M, which is engagement.
mm,
Having decided that they will do it, do they actually do it?
mm,
Now, that's not automatic because there are things that affect box M. So you can look up here and see that the person also has a notion of whether they can self-regulate. So I'm going to become a mathematician, but can I, in fact, do what it takes to become a mathematician? Do I know the right things? Do I know how to regulate my behavior? Or am I lazy?
mm,
Am I not self-controlled?
mm,
And also available supports. Is there someone who can help me so
mm.
that I know that I can get engaged? And if I get engaged, I will perform well.
Okay, I see.
So the far right column is
Mm,
brand new.
mm.
All of that used to be in box K.
Yeah, I used to have like uh, choice, engagement, and performance.
Yes,
Now, this current model, I see how you separated them: choice,
yes, right,
engagement, and performance.
right. Because we figured out that making a choice doesn't mean you'll succeed.
Mm,
Many things can happen after you make the choice, and they do.
mm,
So that's why we have box A to H. So
mm,
everything that is
mm,
in the first three columns
mm,
can come back to affect a person's ability to engage
mm,
and to perform.
mm. Okay.
But then performance goes back around and starts all over again. So you can see that box 8N has
Mm-hmm.
a dotted line on it
Mm.
that goes back to box D.
I see previous achievement related experience and
Right.
performance.
Because performance today, tomorrow is previous.
Mm,
So the system, the whole system is cyclic.
mm,
And that's very hard to capture in a model like this. We tried to do it by making so these dotted lines, everywhere there's a dotted line, we're talking about feedback over time.
And also I see box L, perceived self-regulation and available supports. So they
Right.
came to performance, there is allo coming to engagement, as well as going to achievement-related choices.
Yes.
Mm-hmm,
So before whether you can engage and do the task
mm-hmm,
is influenced by both your ability, how well you think you can self-control, so
mm-hmm,
self-regulated learning, but
mm-hmm,
also the available supports you have.
mm,
So if you know your mom's going to help you or your teacher's going to help you, so this brings in both an internal and an external characteristic that
mm,
will influence the extent to which you can engage and perform.
mm,
And we thought it was very important to make that distinction
mm,
because the things in I, K, and J are all thoughts. They're
mm,
beliefs that are in the mind of the actor, whereas the last column is actually implementing the choice. So
mm,
those are behaviors.
mm. Can you explain boxes A to H, someone who see above perceived self-regulation and available support? We see boxes A to H.
Right. Well, the reason we did that,
Mm-hmm,
so that's all the boxes from A to H. We
mm,
didn't want to redraw them up here and make all these arrows. It would have been even more messy.
mm,
So we just said, look, these beliefs that you have about your ability to self-regulate and the beliefs you have about available supports were set up in the past.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So all of those things that are talked about in A through H come back and have an impact on L.
Oh, I see. So that means uh, you mentioned in your book saying this model or these boxes we see are exemplars, are not final set.
Yes, that's
So,
right. So that's particularly true in boxes A to H, because
mhm,
it doesn't say that everything is going to have an impact, but things in A and H are likely to be relevant. So for studies, you want to think about whether you want to include in your study. So I would never expect someone to study this all at once.
mm,
But if you're studying a part of it, you have to understand it's part of a larger system.
mm, mm,
Now it's perfectly fine to say, I'm really interested in how you get from K to M.
mm,
So we have some suggestions. We say you can get your memories about self-regulation and available supports will
mm,
affect K and will also affect M.
mm,
That box L is affected by everything over here.
mm,
So if you want to study the socialization of that, you would want to go back and look at what we have to say about, well, what socializers' beliefs. So I have a whole nother model like this that just talks about B,
mm, mm,
that breaks B out and says, all right, so how is it that teachers affect kids?
mm, mm,
So you could put all kinds of things underneath B.
mhm,
And that's going to be more culturally specific. It's going to be more age specific.
mm,
So if you're talking about a 40-year-old making a choice, it's probably not their elementary school teacher that has this having an effect, but it might be their boss.
mm,
So who's the socializer that's relevant to a 40-year-old?
mm,
So as you apply the model
mhm,
at different points in time and in different settings, you need to be thinking about that. And that's what we mean about these things can be somewhat flexible.
mm,
And we wouldn't be at all surprised if some things had to get added in there.
mm, mm.
Now,
So,
some people would say that's because we're wishy-washy, that we don't want to say absolutely for sure this is what you need.
mm,
And we don't. We are wishy-washy because this is a very complex, what skill set a person chooses to develop is
mm,
heavily determined by many factors.
mm, mm,
So, what we've tried to put together when we say it's a framework is we think all of these things
mm,
play a role,
mhm,
and the person who's trying to design a study or develop an intervention
mm,
needs to think about all these factors and then decide which set they're going to study.
mm. Okay. You discuss even in your book the social identity and personal identity. What is the difference between these two concepts?
Okay, so this is box G,
Mm-hmm.
number one.
Mm-hmm.
And the distinction that we made, so we tried to think about, there's a lot of people who are now studying the girls in math, and they're using the word identity. I'm a math person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good at math, and that's part of who I think I am.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so that's what we meant by personal identity. These characteristics that make you unique. Identities are things that you know about yourself that are
Mm-hmm.
very important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And a personal identity is the things that make you unique. So,
Mm-hmm.
what you're particularly good at, what you particularly like to do.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas social identities serve the function of making you belong.
Mm-hmm.
So, their membership in groups that are important to you. That could be your religious group. That could be the team you play sports on. But it's not because it's not your personal identity, because it doesn't serve the purpose of saying, I need to do this because I really care about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I want to do this because it lets me be with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
So these social identities are things that lead people to do good things and terrible things. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they're part of group membership, and that affects what you think you can do and what you think is important.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I see. So just even coming back even to subjective task value, box
Mm-hmm.
G. So you talked about the hierarchy. Normally, the previous model we have a intrinsic value or interest or enjoyment value. That's how you call it now. Utility
Mm-hmm.
value, attainment value, relative cost. And now you have also prior investments. So are these values on the order? Does it mean what comes first is intrinsic value,
No,
comes next is utility value?
no.
Mm-hmm.
No, we think these are five things, and
Mm-hmm.
we tried to reduce them to the most common denominator. So we think each of these five things are different enough from each other that they need their own name.
Mm-hmm.
But you could add some others, and that's mainly for for cultural reasons and personal reasons. We don't think these one of these is more important than the other.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't think they're competing with each other. So I would never do a study where I tried to see which one was the most important
Mm-hmm.
because that's going to vary by person. What matters to me and why they're all under that same box is I think that they aggregate up to subjective task value.
Mm-hmm.
So subjective task value is influenced by multiple things,
Mm-hmm.
and how a person weights those is going to vary across people
Mm-hmm.
and across time and across settings.
Mm-hmm.
So if your utility value, for example, would become very important
Can you
if
define those values so that even people can understand them?
sure. So interest enjoyment value is how much fun you have doing it or how much fun you think you're going to have doing it.
Mm.
So it's hedonistic. It's basically you like doing it.
Like
And
how am I enjoy using mobile phone?
yes. Or I love to go to dinner because I love food and it tastes good, and I go because it tastes good. Or I love to swim because it feels so good in the water moving around.
Okay, I see.
So that's simply pleasure.
Mm.
Utility value is more extrinsic in that it's the value of a particular task for fulfilling your short and long-term goals. So
Mm.
I want to be an engineer. I need to get a degree in engineering. To get a degree in engineering, I have to know math.
Mm.
So the value of math would be high if I want to be an engineer because it helps me become an engineer.
Mm.
So that's utility value. It also could be it makes my mom happy. And one of my goals is to make my mom happy
Mm.
or to have lots of friends.
Mm.
Then things that let me have lots of friends or things that make my mom happy
Mm.
have high utility value.
So is it means utility value? You said it's like extrinsic value. There is one who came up with intrinsic and extrinsic uh, factors. What is the theory? Is it a theory of determination?
Yes, self-determination theory,
Yes.
DC and Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
They make a big decision. They say intrinsic is better than extrinsic.
Mm-hmm.
We don't say that. We say, look, something that has utility value can be just as important as something that's fun to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for some people, so now we go back to personality back in box C. If
Mm-hmm.
you're a hedonistic person,
Mm-hmm.
then doing things for fun is going to be the main reason you're going to do them.
Mm-hmm.
So intrinsic value will have more importance to you than utility value.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a hard worker and you want to be a success at a job that makes lots of money,
Mm.
then utility value is going to be what's most important to you.
Okay, that's when you use utility value, its usefulness.
Yes. But it also, so then we come down, then we talk about attainment value. And
Mm.
attainment value is related to identities.
Mm.
So attainment value is more than utility value. So DC and Ryan talk about internalization of values.
Mm.
So they what they say, and we agree, something can start being extrinsically motivated, like my parents say I have to become an engineer.
Mm.
Over time, I can incorporate or internalize that goal, and it
Mm.
can become part of my identity.
Mm.
I want to be an engineer. I want to be known as an engineer. Being an engineer is the most important thing to me in the world.
Mm. Mm.
That's attainment value.
It's connected to personal identity.
It's those things that become attached to your personal identities, right? Or your social identities.
Mhm.
So being known as a uh, outstanding politician, for example,
Mm,
can be a social identity
mm,
that is so important. I want to be a Democrat. I want to be amongst Democrats. I want to do this. That's an identity that will give certain activities high attainment value because they're associated with being seen as a Democrat
mm,
or a libertarian or a communist or a capitalist. Those tend to operate like social identities.
mm, mm,
Okay, so attainment value is sort of like utility value, but it is related to more internalized goals.
mm, mm,
So some long-term goals are part of your identity.
mm,
Some are not. They're just goals.
mm. Then relative cost.
Yeah, so anything you do has costs. So
Mm,
I was trained in economics to some extent, and nothing we do doesn't have a cost.
mm,
So we do include that in this value thing. Is how does a person think about what it will cost them?
mm,
And
mm,
that's in part where the hierarchy becomes very important. I
mm,
may think it's both important to be a great mathematician
mm,
and or to be a great violinist and to be a great parent, for
mm,
example. But if I have kids, every time I take time to practice my violin, I'm not parenting.
mm,
Or every time I take time to do things with my kids, I'm not practicing my violin.
mm,
So we have fixed time and fixed money and
mm,
fixed energy.
mm,
So everything that we do takes time away from something else.
mm,
That's just the nature of life.
mm,
So that's one cost.
mm,
So a social cost could be anything that makes somebody else unhappy.
mm,
So
mm,
I could do this because I love it, but I
mm,
know it's going to make somebody else mad.
mm,
So you could think of lots of situations like that. I
mm,
could go play jazz tonight at the jazz concert, but my husband's going to be furious because he has to take care of the kids.
mm,
So that would be a social cost. A
mm,
psychological cost could be, well, I love playing my violin, but I hate doing it in front of people because I get anxious.
mm,
So I'll do it at home and I won't go to the jazz club and play.
mm,
Uh, so those are financial. Many things cost money. So this goes back to parents.
mm,
What can they afford to help their child learn how to do?
mm. Then the last one,
Is these prior investments, which we talked about a little bit earlier.
yeah.
Uh, some things you're going to say, do you want to start something new or not?
Mm,
And that's going to be related to the fact that trying something new is costly.
mm,
And perfecting something you already put a lot of time into is less costly.
mm,
So it will cost less to keep getting better than it
mm,
will cost to start a whole new activity.
yeah.
So that would be a very important one if a person's making a decision to change a career, for example,
Mm,
or to change a sport that they do if they want to become a professional sports person.
mm. I think also, even in your book, you came up with the model talking about the culture more, even if we are not going to talk more about the culture. So why did you choose on talking more about culture?
Well, because I would like to be, I would like the model to be useful in different cultures
Mm-hmm.
for everyone in the world. I'm not necessarily interested in explaining only Americans' behavior,
Mm,
or only girls' behavior, or only members of a particular tribe or social group. I would like the model to be applicable for people who are wanting to study anyone.
mm,
Well, culture is a very big factor. So all of these beliefs that I
mm,
think are important are heavily shaped by the culture that a person is in. And what's interesting is we don't even know that till we go to another culture. I mean,
mm,
culture is so subtle
mm,
that we don't even notice it if we're in our own culture and we never leave because
mm,
everybody acts that way.
mm,
It's when you go and somebody does something else that's surprising and you go, oh, wait a minute. Were they rude? Well, maybe they were. Maybe they weren't. That depends on what that behavior means in their culture.
mm. I see. Maybe we'll talk more about it, but can you maybe because uh, I think you came up with this one, uh, this dynamic model.
It's
Some.
the same model. There are just no boxes and arrows.
Mm-hmm,
Instead, we've got circles and circles.
mm-hmm,
So the outside circle is what we had in the far left column of the boxes and arrows. So
mm,
some people think this way. And we thought, well, we should represent our model in different ways so
mm,
that people who have different ways of conceptualizing the relationship between things can understand and find the model useful. So if you look, the outside circle or oval is what's in column, the leftmost column. The
mm,
next one is a little bit in it's more in column 2 and 3.
mm. I see.
The next three are expectancies, values, and um, ability self concepts. So now we're getting into that the fourth column.
Mm,
4. Then we've got choice,
mm,
which is influenced by the three that are closest to it. And
mm,
within that, we've got engagement and performance. So this is a model that works from the outside in,
mm,
as opposed to from left to right.
mm.
But
Why
it's
is
basically the same thing. Some people think this way, some people think in boxes and arrows.
Oh, I see. Why is it dynamic?
Well, they call it dynamic, so we said it's dynamic. So,
Mm,
so I don't know why. I think the boxes and arrows is more dynamic and is more useful in generating specific hypotheses.
mm,
But this, because there's no arrows, it makes it look like it's more easy to say, oh yeah, all those things are interacting at once.
mm, mm. Yeah.
So which box do you like? Which figure do you like best?
I think for me, even you asked me the question I wanted just even to came up with when it started. I always think about expectancy, then the subjective values, then also I value those external factors. So uh, it's depend on the situation.
Okay.
Yeah, but of course, I value expectancy and subjective values. So, to me, what do I value when I'm performing a task?
Mm-hmm.
So, it was good to talk more about this model because it's very, very helpful. Um, We'll continue to talk more about your book. Just the conversation today was mainly focusing on the model, which is very good. You gave us more information. It's very easy now for people maybe who have been reading different articles, but getting chance to hear from the one who developed the theory, the model is very good.
Well, good. I'm happy to be helpful.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions on the model, basic model?
There is no other question, but just what I wanted to ask you as we conclude. What is the message do you want to give researchers, those who use this theory? What is the message do you want them to understand when they use this theory?
The power of the brain, so that things like decisions about what you're going to do are heavily influenced by what you think.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to understand better what we think and why we think it, but also what we think is heavily influenced by our experiences from birth on.
Mm,
So we need to have a model that both focuses, you need to be thinking about what's happening in the moment, but
mm,
also how it came to be that way over time.
mm,
And you can look at various components of the model, and they are all equally important because it's very hard to change things, to intervene if it interferes with other parts of a person's life that are so well established.
mm,
The cost of doing something new is hard.
mm,
So, the kind of work that you do, I would hope a model like mine would say, okay, we want the farmers to use this information more.
mm,
We have to know why they're not doing that.
mm,
And probably it's that they don't think they'll succeed and they don't understand it enough to value it.
mm,
Why don't they? Well, then you go back in your mind and you say, well, maybe it's because in school no one ever showed them these things, or the technology is so new they won't have been exposed to it in the past,
mm,
or the technology is so difficult to use.
mm,
The wires go out, the Wi-Fi goes down, they give up because the task is not consistent enough. So
mm,
to get a good analysis, you need to be thinking about the whole model,
mm,
but then focus in on which parts of it are mostly directly related to your immediate research question.
mm.
So
Wow.
I'm hoping it's getting people to focus in and back out and focus in and back out. So they're continually
Mm,
thinking about, well, something's happening in the moment. I want to understand, but I also need to understand how we got there.
wow. Thank you so much. It's very good to hear from you. Always, sometimes I think I know this model. When I talk to you, I say, no, I need to learn more.
Huh? Well, I've spent 40 years developing it, so don't be surprised.
Yeah, I always learn more. Uh,
Yes?
that's
Well,
why,
you're going to contribute more. You're going to change it, and that's good.
yeah. So I'm very happy to keep having conversation with you, even helping other people to know more about this theory. It has been very helpful to my research, and also I'm committed to keep using this theory. Um, Thank you for your effort. Thank you for your investment. I know you are always available to help us, to support anyone who want to have understanding about this theory. Jack,
Absolutely.
I really appreciate you are very flexible to just to communicate to help us to understand more. So thank you so much for this moment, for this time.
Well, before we go, I
Mm,
want to tell people they can find a lot about us and a lot about the work by going to the website. And
mm,
the website is GARP period education period UCI.
mhm.
And if you go into there, you'll find us and you'll find more information and all our measures and everything else.
So that means you have been collaborating with different people.
Yes.
Mm. Thank you so much. We will continue to talk about the book. Today, the main focus was on the model.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.